Hello everyone, I'm the 5-minute reviewer, and today I want to give my 5-minute take on the big announcement about Fire Emblem Fortune's Reef. So I'm talking a bit about the preview and what to expect and what I like and what I didn't like, all in 5 minutes. I won't be able to cover every single detail, but I hope you enjoy my summary. So without further ado, let's begin. The first major thing I want you guys to know that I feel a bit ambivalent about is that the story is split into at least 2 acts. Similar to Fire Emblem Three Houses. The first act is a tournament arc where you choose one of the 4 protagonists and compete in a Colosseum-like games called the Heroic Games. It involves a lot of combat, and apparently there's a lot of exploration and a lot of side activities. The second act will take place after 5 years, in which you play as a new protagonist called Ishmael. Now, unlike the other 4 protagonists, the game, or rather the announcement, regard this protagonist Ishmael as the main protagonist, which means that you'll be fighting the main villain behind all your troubles in this act. And you have to go back in time to gather the allies of the past to fight this main villain. I don't know how it'll work out, so I'm a bit ambivalent about it. Fire Emblem is sometimes not very well known of having great stories, like Fire Emblem Fates, even though I love that series. But let's wait and see whether the story will be good. I must say something positive though, which is that this game seems to be stepping in the right direction by focusing a lot on character development, unlike the previous game, Fire Emblem Engage, where the characters are really touch and go. In fact, I can't remember all the characters of Fire Emblem Engage, but even I can remember all the characters from Fire Emblem Three Houses, because they were more memorable and there was a lot of character development there. Next, I want to briefly talk about the new classes which are introduced and new weapons which are introduced. Now, some of these are very familiar or substitute with another name of the previous classes we had in previous Fire Emblem games. For instance, instead of Cavalier for the basic horse unit, they call it a Bardinger here. But there are some units and that make me a bit excited if I ever get a game and I really want to play them. Like there'll be a class where you ride an elephant into battle. That looks pretty awesome. And there'll be another class that you ride a chariot into battle. And all this looks fantastic, and I'm glad they adopted the animation from Fire Emblem Engage. And of course, the other thing I expect to be introduced are the new weapons. And one of the weapons, even though it's considered to be a gauntlet, appears to be a gun wielded by this character called Anatolia. I don't know how it will exactly work, but it's quite cool to see Fire Emblem entering the age of firearms. Another interesting thing I saw was the introduction of Blaze Arts, where the main lords have the ability to use a special power and cast these magic spells from hit points. This reminds me of Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, where all your spells are cast from hit points. So it'll be quite interesting to see how the strategies change. I'm especially excited by this character called Dieter, who can seem to use his special ability to teleport across obstacles. And we'll wait and see how that happens. The next thing I want to highlight are some returning mechanics. To change class, you have to get the certification exam, like Fire Emblem Three Houses. And also, there's dungeon exploration from the Nintendo DS 3DS game called Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. So I welcome these returning mechanics. Also, to recruit new party members, you have to go around and socialize. And I quite enjoy that part in Fire Emblem Three Houses. Like I said, it gives the characters a lot of personality, and this can be seen as a net positive. And like Fire Emblem Echo Shadows of Valentia, there's a giant world map to explore, and hopefully it won't be as bland as that game. And like I said, we have to wait and see when Fire Emblem Fortune's Reef finally is released. And there's one thing I really have doubts about is whether our decisions in the story will actually matter. This because the game advertises there is a way for you to play as all 4 protagonists in parallel stories. So I'm not sure whether this grant taking would affect whether we have any say or input to changes in the overall story, whether it is just one overall story with a golden ending or it's 4 separate stories like Fire Emblem Three Houses. So I'm not too sure about that, and I'm not sure I like this idea. So in conclusion, as a big Fire Emblem fan, I'm looking forward to the project. But do tell me what you think in the comments below, and do have a good week ahead. Thank you everyone, and goodbye.